You may have heard the song Rich Men North of Richmond, and this song went all the way to the top of the charts.
Selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you.
Why? Well, in this video, we're going to look at what's happening. People are feeling it in their heart and soul, working themselves to the bone, and at the end of the day, getting so little.
In this moment in time, when so many people are feeling the same frustrations, it would be wonderful to capitalize on that and just use that positive energy to help other people in your life. Maybe people that are different than you, people that you wouldn't normally connect with. I can tell you from my experience in the jobs I've had and all the people I've talked to, everyone has a really interesting story if you just give them the time to talk. It's easy to walk down the sidewalk by somebody and look down at the ground, look at your phone, but that really is a big part of the problem. We're also disconnected from each other.
But why is that happening? We are going to explore this today, look at it in depth, and I will show you that we should not have a message of despair, but instead one of hope. So let's break it down right here. The very first thing is all about the consumer. I want to tell you that I am here to give you the latest and greatest information. My name is David Quintieri, and what I do is I take all of that complicated financial jargon and make it real easy, but I give you the tips and strategies and exactly what to do, usually bringing it full circle by the end. So if you stick with me, I'll give the details of what you need to know. The very first thing that we need to understand is that people are pushed to the edge right here. You've got them spending more, they're getting less. And rents are likely to move even higher from this point, pushing people further in. I've got a lot of detail, and I wanted to start right here. Almost 3/4, 72% of Americans say that they aren't financially secure given their current financial standing, and more than a quarter said that they will likely never be financially secure. There are actually millions of people suffering, and that is something that I say all the time, and some people, I guess if they're not in that circumstance, they're fortunate enough, they don't believe it. It's not something that people want to talk about. But if you were in a place where your financial security feels super precarious, you're not alone. And I think it's important that it's always going on. This is not something that's necessarily new, but we are feeling the effects of this right now because of inflation, because of how the prices of everything have moved up. And of course, the policies put into place have brought us here. And so that's where people are standing today. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that financial education just is not there. So I want to show you some more details. Let's look at it. Buying secondhand is gaining popularity. And this is all around the world. Look, it's not just one place. You could see in the UK, in the US, and so on, right? And it has been growing over the years. And yes, you could argue some people like to do that. They can get vintage pieces and this and that. However, what we're seeing is that people cannot afford top dollar as they did before. They are cutting back on other things. They're cutting back on their food, in which maybe before they would buy the name brand, now they're buying the no name. They are going and buying in bulk in certain places. They're going to the dollar stores versus other places. So this balances out, and you see that in the data. I've shown you this before. And so we have all of this anecdotal evidence that adds up to show us the average American or somebody in Canada, wherever, that they are dealing with roughly the same issues. And it's the central banks that are the root cause of this. Of course, the government does a few things as well, let me tell you. But when you devalue a currency, you get to this point. But do not despair. There is hope. I'm telling you. Look. Smash and grab mob robberies spark Los Angeles clampdown. Yes, that's right. California is going to take care of these people. What do you think about that? I think it is pretty clear that in many cities around the United States and other places, the punishment simply not there. We were allowed to steal up to $900 worth of stuff and nothing bad happens. So what's the incentive to not do it? You understand? That's what's going on all over the place. We see the same thing. So this is becoming rampant. And people, when that occurs, look at a lot of developing nations, or even within, let's say, the United States. When that type of thing happens, when there's so much crime, look at what happens to the economy. Because the businesses say, you know what, I'm going to shut down instead of at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or even beyond. I'm going to shut down at 8 o'clock. I'm going to shut down at 6 o'clock. So the economy starts to shrink, and the same thing just, reverberates throughout. This is not a good sign. You want prosperity and you want a reduction in poverty overall. There has to be something that is done about all of this business that's going on. Okay, it's not being done. How mega rich musicians, including Post Malone, Chris Brown, Leanne Rimes, and Nickelback, thrown in there, bagged up to $10 million in emergency grants that they didn't have to pay back. And they give you the examples. This is all part of, trying to get the people that worked for these artists, and so they would get them, and they're not working, so the roadies and all the people working for them, that they would still get paid. It turns out, like, there's this one homeless guy right here that he got paid, and this guy, I think he was beating the hell out of his wife at some point. These guys got money, okay, and you probably didn't get much or anything, but they got millions and millions and millions of dollars to keep their operations going. So we can tell that the money goes some places. It doesn't just go, where you would think that the people that need it most generally get the least. And that's just the way it works. But let me look at this. The student loan moratorium, which allowed Americans to divert money that used to go to loan payments, to dinners out and new furniture, ends later this year. And that is going to have an impact on people's ability to spend. This article was talking about retail sales, saying that it was better than they expected. But look, moving from September into October, that's going to come back. You're going to have to pay these student loans. There are millions upon millions of people that are going to have to now pay on average $400 a month extra. What does that mean for the economy? Okay, more slowdown. I think you get the picture here, okay? So let's look at some of the economic factors really quickly before I show you what's going on Richmond, north of Richmond. You got to ask yourself, you got to start asking these questions. If this is the case, if these things are happening, if there is a slowdown and we are going into a recession, what can I do? What should I do? And that is when I know that you are on the right path. This is what I do with the mentorship. When we look at these things, I want to assess your personal situation and I want to get you to grow. I want to bring you further. I want to take you to places you've never been before. Okay. And it's not just a vacation to Europe. Okay. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about you and your personal circumstances. If you are at level 0, okay, we need to get you to level 1. Let's take it step by step. And I'll show you more about that, okay? Look, U.S. importers are absorbing higher shipping costs this summer. Container lines have reversed the big drop in freight rates this year, but experts say that the price increases may be short-lived. We don't really know. A lot of this is because after dealing with this for a while, the prices were up significantly, then they came down back to like relatively normal levels. But then what happened? Well, they said, okay, we're not shipping as much stuff, we're going to not put as many containers, we're not going to put as many ships, and that starts to send the price up, right? So supply and demand. So watch out what happens with this, because imports, exports, anything to do with freight in general, like that type of data, gives you this anecdotal evidence of what's happening with the consumer. But this is the economy, right? Lots of stuff in there, as well as this. The Panama Canal has become a traffic jam of the seas. More than 200 vessels are stuck on either side of the waterway as a serious drought cuts crossings. So they've got the weather issues to deal with. A lot of these places that are bringing this freight in, they're dealing with one thing or another. And of course, yet again, another reason why prices can escalate. You got to realize at this point here that there are several factors now questioning what they're talking about in the media and so on with this strong economy. Is it really strong? Is it? I'm not so sure about that. When I look at the data, it tells a different story. Like you can have prices rising, but is that because of strength and demand, or is it because of a problem fundamentally? Investors fear a financial contagion in China. Troubles at big trust company worry investors about the fallout from the slumping property sector. All I'm trying to say here is that people are reliant heavily at this time, a lot of people, on their 401k, on their investments that have perhaps done very well since 2020, and they've been doing so good. My house price is like this. I start pulling out the equity. I'm using it like an ATM. All of these things riding on these very, very, let's say, thin margins, and they could be squeezed, whether it's something from inside of their town, inside of their city, or maybe it's on the opposite end of the world. We've got to be aware of this, and we always want to have a cushion. We want to be shielded from any potential fallout, and you got to prepare in advance for that type of thing. Okay, but let me tell you, things for some are indeed falling apart. And we see that. The data is clearly there. Theft, drugs, and degeneracy. Look at the music that people are into at this time. It's relevant to what we're talking about here, where it's just Satanism and it's just filth. And I don't understand it. Maybe there's more to understand. I don't think so. But that's what seems to do well. And that's why it's so odd about this song that now that has made it past all of that stuff in the charts. Maybe just maybe, people are looking for a different message. They don't want to be told that, this satanic nonsense and everything else. We got to talk about that. Okay. Richmond, north of Richmond. I'll look at this as well as a message of hope and not despair. We don't want to be the ones that are saying, this is the end. Okay. We don't want to know. We don't want to talk about that. We want this. America's addiction crisis laid bare. 2/3 of adults have family member hooked on drugs or alcohol, and 1 in 10 have lost someone to an overdose. I say this all the time, and the reason I mention this connects in with what we'll talk about in a second. But that we have to get our situation straight. We've got problems, and a lot of times we try to drown out those problems, but instead we need to find people or somebody that has that strength that can pull you along, that can pull you up. A lot of times we need that. And we don't have to be in this circumstance right here, but no matter what, we always want to be pulled up or pulled out of a hole or whatever, quicksand. We need to be pulled out. And so we need to find people as best we can. We need like-minded people, right? Well, let me tell you about that in a second here. So this is a picture. This is Oliver Anthony and this musician, Richmond, north of Richmond. Interesting song. And he basically talks about, the blue collar, not getting paid enough, dealing with the circumstances that millions and millions of people are dealing with right now. And he's basically singing about it. And he turned down an $8 million contract. And says basically, I don't want tour buses. I don't want all this stuff. This is ridiculous. Okay, this is not what I am interested in. He says, there's nothing special about me. I'm not a good musician. I'm not even a very good person. I've spent the last 5 years struggling with mental health and using alcohol to drown it. I am sad to see the world in the state that it's in, with everyone fighting each other. I spent many nights feeling hopeless that the greatest country on earth is quickly fading away. That being said, I hate the way the internet has divided all of us. The internet is a parasite infecting the minds of humans and has gotten their way. Basically, we're distracted by technology and so on. And so this is just a message from one man. But what I wanted to say here was, I know he's just posting, giving his heart out to this, but understand that he became #1 on the charts, meaning that so many people resonate with him, understand him, and that he got that message through and everybody connected on it. Now, maybe he turned down the money. He's not interested in that. That's one thing. But understand that this is actually, a message of hope, that he realizes perhaps now that we're all in the same boat together. And so a rising tide lifts all boats. And I hope that he now uses that platform to go on. Ron Paul said, "What is left for us to do? The future looks bleak. The power elites are hunkering down, and there's no sign of anyone in Washington cares, listens, or understands the issue of money and the power of the Fed." Does that mean that the only option is to go into survival mode? I don't think so. There's a rumbling in the heartland, and anger is building. Harnessing that anger and converting it into positive constructive energy could have favorable consequences beyond our imagination. It's time to become energized, not despondent, over the tragic mess that has been imposed on us. And that is fantastic to leave it like this, where I say to you that if you want to find these like-minded people, they are out there. The one that I have available to everybody, number one, is this channel, so subscribe to it, but also the Discord, because in that Discord, it is only going to be positivity and messages, tips, strategies for how we can do our best given the circumstances we have. I'm going to be doing giveaways on there. I'm going to be sharing as much as I can on there. I am there every single day. This is not one of those Discord channels where it's just a bunch of people just talking in there. I am in there every day trying to do my best. If you want to start a business, get on in there. If you're interested in the stock market, get on in there. There's stuff for everybody. And if you simply request it, you're going to get more. So put that in there. Come on in. Discord, it's free. Hit that and we will talk. Okay. Comment of the day. Uncle Sam, quote, I'm going to save the failing banks and businesses by printing money. China, if you print money, I'm going to print more money too. The whole world goes brr. And we've seen this before. I think it's interesting to see this. I want to thank you for that comment. This was Happy Harry. And look, we're seeing this all over the place, right? That countries are going to print. They're going to devalue that currency. So we need to be prepared and we need to do what we can. Do not despair. Have hope. I hope this message is sent to you with positivity and knowing that, yeah, okay, that's the circumstance. And here's what we're going to do about it. We have some steps to take. We have those action steps. If you need to know directly from me, put it in the comments below or go on that Discord. Over 1,100 people are in there already. And let's continue with that. Let's keep growing it. And I'll see you there.